You know, a few years ago, I got some fantastic stock footage from over at Andrew Kramer's team over at videocopilot.net. And I used to use that with After Effects, and it was great. It had all sorts of explosions and smoke and blood splatters and just some great stuff that you could work into your videos. And I thought I would try that with Resolve. So I have the assets set up over in one of my local folders, and I thought, well, I'll just take a look at it's a QuickTime format, some sort of a QuickTime animation format, incompatible with Resolve. And I've got Resolve 15.1, was just released last week, and I've got Resolve 15.1 running here, and so all this great stock footage is useless to me, or at least so I thought. So I had a specific blood splattering in mind that I was interested in, and I thought to myself, you know, actually Fusion, if you have Fusion 9, which I happen to have here, this is Fusion Studio 9.02, turns out that Fusion actually can read these files. So I'm just going to grab my blood splat and just drag it right into the flow portion of the Fusion pane here. Let's close that up. And we'll just take a look at what this is. So this is a 1280 by 640, kind of an unusual size there. And you can see that it's a very nice blood splattering that would look like perhaps brain material hitting a window. It's kind of gross, but for this tutorial it's quite useful. And this is actually a fairly lengthy segment, but I'm going to actually shorten up. What I've done here is I just want this actually has 402 frames. You can see that here over in the properties for this video. There's 402 frames. I know this happens to be at 23.98 frames per second, but there's no way to tell that within Fusion, at least that I'm aware of. I'm only going to take the first 100 frames of this just to shorten it up a little bit. So this is all I need. This will be fine. But first I'm going to actually add a resize. So I'm going to hold the Control key down and then hit the space bar and select a resize. And the resize will actually bump this up to my native format that I want to use over in Resolve, which is 1920 by 1080. And then from the resize, I'm just going to, with the resize selected, I'm going to create a saver node. And this is where the magic's going to happen. I'm going to save this into just a local folder I have here. I'm going to call it bloodsplatter.mov. And I'm going to pick the QuickTime movie container. And for the format, I'm going to select one of our DNxHRs. I don't have, this is a PC, so I don't have actually access to ProRes right now. Although I can save it with Fusion, I won't be able to read it back in again with Resolve, as far as I'm aware. Anyway, I'm a user of Avid products, so I'm quite familiar with using the DNxHRs. I'm going to pick 444 12-bit. I could also pick the HQX 12-bit. But I'll use the highest quality I have available to me. And under the advanced options, I'll make sure that save alpha is checked. So we're going to save the alpha channel here. I'll just drag this up into the output. So our output, you can see, is going to be 1920 by 1080. And so with that set up, so remember I just dragged and dropped in the original MOV that wasn't compatible with Resolve. Then I resized it and then added a saver node and set it up. The only change I made was to actually set up the file format being QuickTime, with specifically the encoding format as DNxHR 444 12-bit. And I will also amend the frame rate to 23.98, which matches the frame rate of the original file. And now I'll click the render button, and we're going to do a final render. And it'll just blow through this pretty quickly. Okay, so the render's complete. I'm going to switch back over to Resolve. And we'll just close this up. I saved it over to a pretty fast drive here, over in Blood Splatter. So there it is. I'm just going to drag this into my project. Don't have any other footage that's all that suitable, so what I'm going to do for this timeline is just drag a solid color under our toolbox generators. Drag a solid color into the timeline, and I will put the blood splattering over top so that we can see it. Alright, now I'm going to select the color swatch here, and I just want to make this a bit lighter. I'll move this out of the way. You can see I just want to get a better sense of what I'm seeing here with the blood splatter. There we go. And you'll notice that there's some sort of dark fringing here. And what I've found with this particular workflow is that it's best to actually select the MOV that we just created in Fusion, and then under clip attributes on the very first page under video we can look at the alpha mode. It looks like I get a better result out of pre-multiplied. Let me just move this dialog off to the side and watch what happens to the dark fringing around here. So by default it's selected straight. If I select pre-multiplied and then click OK, I think that actually looks nicer, or at least as nice as it can look. As I'm just going to use my arrow key to key through this, step through the frames one at a time. And that is a pretty usable bit of footage now that I've been able to transcode using Fusion. So pretty simple, but I think it's actually kind of a nice tip. I'm certainly glad I found this, because every once in a while I want to grab something out of that collection and I haven't been able to use it in Fusion until this time. So anyway, I hope you guys find that useful as well, and I'll talk to you later.
Keep on doing what you